Hi, welcome to this Open Security Summit session where we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, which is security champions or security ambassadors these days. And me and Timo are going to basically be doing a sort of a tag team, sort of commenting on our experiences, what works, what we've seen doesn't work, you know, the kind of the great ways to leverage this sort of amazing sort of resource. And again, if anybody wants to chip in, that is the participants, let us now raise your hand and we'll bring you in, because this is all about sharing our knowledge and sharing the experience that we have on building security champions programs. And Timo has some slides that he's just going to quickly guide us through, and it will be commenting as we go along. So over to you, Timo.
Yeah, thank you. Do we need to introduce ourselves though, right? We just start with content.
I think we've done enough sessions, man.
Okay, all right. Yeah, we start directly. So this is kind of the same which you stated last time, just to get participants on board, right? You need security champions, or you call them ambassadors in your last session. So we have a voice for the given team, so they can raise questions for the team. And they are the contact point for security-related questions. They are accountable for the security practices within the team. From my point of view, that is something I would like to discuss here, because some people say that it's a bit more than that. And the general recommendation is that 20% of the time of the security champion is used for security related things, and you see here in the drawing that you have the security champions here within the team. So it's important that they're in the team, and then you just have some security architects guiding them in the right directions, and they can have a so-called security guild. Yeah, that is kind of, as I said, there is already the first question. We heard from Tanya Yanka in her last sessions about security champions, that she recommends that security champions actually perform the triage of the findings. I have sometimes the experience that the security champions I'm talking with, they don't want to do that all the time. They just want to be there to answer questions. So kind of they do it the first times, and then they know it, and then they guide the team through it. So they don't want to do that all the time. That's why I said here they are accountable for the security practice, but they don't have to do it necessary. What's your point of view?
Yeah, I think it depends on the maturity level of your security champion / ambassadors program. I think in the beginning, it's, you almost seed that program with a lot of security enthusiasts or developers that want to be part of the system, and you can get them to do some of these. I feel that when it goes to sometimes a level which you need more routine and you need more accountability, I more and more, I feel that some of these resources should be almost part of the security team that are planted in the actual teams themselves, and sometimes even funded by the security teams. So there's a much stronger accountability for some of that work that needs to be done. And you can even have a security ambassador or security champion that is, exists in multiple teams, that, provide some of that extra bit of analysis. Because the key part here is that work is very important. That initial triage, that analysis, that understanding of putting it into context. And I think that the key metric is that the closer that is done to the actual teams, the more efficient everything becomes. The question is, do the teams, or do the individual in that team have the time to do it or not? You see what I mean? So I think that this is a good example of that is already a nice problem to have, because it means that your program is being successful, but now there's a bit of a pushback to say, well, I don't want to, or some of the security ambassadors that you have, they say, I don't want to be doing some of these activities, but that allows you, that can help you to make the business case to say, we probably need to fund somebody that is going to do that. But the closer that person is to the team, ideally the closer that, that person is somebody that they would hire or even part of that team, the better.
Yeah, I also made the experience, as you said, that you have kind of maturity levels in the security champions itself. I'm also having a few people working more close together with me. I had the problem in the past that I didn't have people which are doing things with me. So I had security champions, but they didn't came to the to too much actions. Then I wanted to introduce something, and I need a tool, for example, and I need opinions from them or develop it together with them, because I don't want to push it in front, right? I want to that it fits the needs of the teams. And then I came in problems. I couldn't develop further, and then I came to this concept of security champions and a higher maturity for some people, and these are helping a lot to get the real work done.
But that's actually another very interesting concept that you now touch, which is, when we pick tools and when we pick technology to be used by the developer, especially developer teams, it's very important that they are involved in that discussion, but also they help to pick the technology, because they should also get value from those tools outside of security. And I think that's very important, because it means that, if you think about it, like even a dynamic analysis tool, that is a great stress testing tool. That is a great tool to actually make sure that the application still have a good level of quality, or at least the equivalent level of quality from the previous releases. So I think we can use these security champions, security ambassadors, to drive technology to be used by the team, that they also are happy and they can be involved in the choosing of that tool and in the deployment of those tools, especially because you need to put it on a CI pipeline these days, right? Because that's the best place to put it.
Yeah, for most tools, yes.
Yeah. The other thing I feel that would be important to mention here is that security champions, and maybe just distinguish a little bit. So security champions are a great way to start with, because you find people in the teams that become your point of contact. The ambassador concept, it's almost like you make it a lot more formal, where they start to have this sort of much more formal accountability for the security practice that you want to push within the team, that ideally should be driving from your policies. But it's the practice today is that this is one of the best ways to scale, and one of the best ways for the central security team to actually have individuals embedded within the multiple teams that actually think and care and are able to execute and basically, leverage security to make them go faster, right? Because ultimately that's what we want.
Okay, you're muting yourself. That means we go on.
Yeah.
Then rewards. I can I can tell you the story why I introduced specific rewards. When I started my career as a security consultant, and I went to my first client, and we wanted to introduce security champions, and I introduced this meeting, and we invited, I don't know, 30 people from different teams, and we were sitting there with 2 people. 2 people. So I came to the conclusion that I need something that people are more interested to come, and that's when I personally came to the conclusion that that you need some kind of rewards. When we talk about rewards, and I talk with other people or C-levels, they say, yeah, but security, that is so important that it should be always there. So we don't need rewards to do security. And I think it's needed, because in case it's not there and they then why coming? That's same with KPIs, right? For security, you also need KPIs for security.
Absolutely, but it's also gamification, right? If you think about it, rewards. It's a great way to gamify your system, right? It's a great way to basically say thank you, but to publicly, provide that information of, hey, this was a great piece of work, and we should not underestimate how the individual feels, but also the message it sends to their even line management and colleagues, but also to the rest of the organization. So what kind of rewards have you used in the past?
Yeah, that are the next slides. First of all, there are two types of rewards, I would say. Doing reward, so they actually did something, and a participation reward, so they just came to a meeting where they got presented security-related things, and just for being there, they get something. Doing a reward could be, for example, when they implement TLS or they perform engines hardening or any other activity. And the participation reward would be, as I said, they come to a security champions meeting or they went to a security workshop. Yeah, I'm using both. So you do a reward for doing. No, I have to start different. You could give out points for different activities. So you kind of have a maturity level for rewards. This is not my idea. So basically it's from Lucian. He presented that at the SAM User Day 2020. And I tried this out kind of in the way it's presented here. I adjusted it a bit for a customer, but mainly it's what you can see here. And for me, it didn't work. It didn't work. It worked in the start. So when I had someone taking a look what the developers are doing and automatically giving points, then it worked. So sometimes they come and say, hey, we did something in the areas of security, this and this, and then I gave out points directly through that employee. Then that employee left and I didn't have the time to always directly look in there, and I announced, please send me an email when you did something in the area of security, and then I adjust the point once in a month. And that didn't work. Since then, I'm not getting emails. So it stopped working. Also, in addition, I introduced it in the Corona time. I think that's also important to highlight here. So when you give out, for example, stickers which you can put on your laptop, and then you run around in the office with that sticker. Everyone wants to have that sticker, or the mug or something, right? Then you start doing it. But I didn't have that drive because it was in the start of Corona, and everyone was at home, so it didn't work so great, I would say.
But this is really cool, man. What's that? By the way, what's that M123? What's that on the left?
Sorry, on the left?
What is that M123 that each one has? Can you see use of tools M123?
I don't know what M123 is.
Okay.
I just.
This is from Lucian Quarter. Okay, so Sam uses that. So I didn't create it. Yeah, sorry, I just saw the bottom. Yeah, but this is really cool, right? Because this is a really cool idea in terms of mapping the points. And so you said you tried this?
Yeah, I tried it. For me, it didn't work. So it's something I must have done wrong.
But did you have a good way to assign the points and to maintain it, to get a leaderboard and to update it? Yes,
I can show you the rewards later. They were stacked. Obviously, there's more points you get. You get something better. The problem was when I didn't have the time to do it by myself, to automatically assign points, then it stopped working. Yeah. Well, then yes, you needed, I guess, a bit of horsepower to maintain the point system. But I think, I guess what I like about this is that it allows the more much pragmatic way to reward people, right? Especially if we go to the next level and start to give bonuses and start to give real salary changes on this. This is quite an interesting way, right, to map it out. No, so I really like this. AJP, you should be able to go on mute now. Get your camera out.
Thank you so much. No, I'll put my camera on as well, so I'm not being so antisocial. But yeah, so it's really interesting you say this. I'm one of those people, unfortunately, that comes from a marketing background, but loves DevSecOps, and especially see some parallels here in that the way that marketers try to get their employees to become, say, more mobile on social media, you have to gamify it. You have to buy people into it because it's taking up personal time on their platforms. So people aren't going to do it for free. They just won't do it. There has to be something in it for them. And one of the things that we did at F-Secure, so F-Secure adopted MWR Labs, which was a lab site full of research. And one of the things that we really wanted to do was get as much consultant research on there as possible. But it's like, how do they find the time? So we tried to initially say, you'll only get this hoodie with this sick design on it if you do X, Y, Z. And then we kind of progressed it on, and it became across the organization where we had this thing called badges. So each badge, you could have like an Android badge, you could have like an iOS badge, all of these different badges, threat hunting, for example, threat modeling. And they look really cool. We'd have stickers that were made for the badges, but they were actually badges towards pathways. So if, for example, I was on the threat hunting one, which was an OSINT one, once you'd basically done a few of these and demonstrated those, you'd get the badge, and the badge system would work and it would give you a pathway to development. So then if you say, well, I've got this badge and this badge, you can then go up to that person in your team, your line manager or whoever it is, and say, look what I'm doing, look how I'm contributing. And it was kind of fun at the same time, because I remember, it's funny, like you said, Timo, I ran into someone in the office and they had this little badge called an electric sheep. And it was a little sticker, a little holographic sticker. And I said to him, oh my God, I need that sticker. Like, tell me how to get that sticker. And he's like, oh, it's one of the badges. So you've got to like do some like Android security for that. So I said, all right, then come on, I need this sticker. Me as a marketer, that was one of my first sort of ways in. And yeah, I'm in a bit too deep now, but it's really like cool. You say, with this point system, it can get really intricate. It needs management, right? It needs that constant sort of management. And if they say one person leaves, then what happens then? But I think the pathways is really nice as an example to use for a security champions program, because you're not just saying, hey guys, we need somebody to be accountable within this team. You're actually saying to them, look, this is what we can offer you and this is what you're going to get out of it. Because I'm a really big believer that now some of the communications that we see and some of the words that are used when we're talking about security champions is that it's very security first. We're always trying to push it onto DevOps, for example, like you must adopt a security culture. And that's actually quite confrontational. So any way that we can see people work together, and you only do that if there's you get this for that. Like, unfortunately, as human beings, we want value or something in return for everything that we give. And so I do think that things like this work, but I think they could be tweaked and become really effective. So that's just my piece.
So you're giving it out for people, these badges, right? You're not doing it on a team level, you give it out to people who are doing it independent from their security champions or not.
So basically what we did is we would say, right, you're a part of this program. This is your pathway. So this is what you need to be able to demonstrate to get that badge. So they'd actually be learning from other security people where there was time and resource, but also they know that there was something that they were leading up to. It's not just a blind practice.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I'm one of those really geeky people that really thinks that, again, as a marketer, I have a huge responsibility on my shoulders because I handle a lot of PII, right? And I take it very, very seriously. So I think it is almost like an ethical and moral duty to do everything that I can do within my capability and capacity to keep that data safe. Everything from technology all the way down to sort of use of that data and how people in my team use that data. To the point now where it's come, MarSecOps? And there's another one called MarSec Tech. Ridiculous, like what's going on? I get the logic. But again, I think that you can, and this was going to be one of my questions to you guys actually, was how do you recruit people into these security champions programs? Because I think that sometimes you can just sort of put the message out there and say, hey, if you want to be part of it, put your hand up. Doesn't always work. Forcing developers to do it. not going to work. You're going to get that backlash, right? So how do you find ways to find those people like me within my organization to actually put their hand up and say, yeah, I'll try that. That sounds like a good idea. Like, I want to be a part of this.
So just maybe tackle that quickly. I think there's different phases. I think that there's a number of individuals that you'll find with, and I used to joke and say, if you have a heartbeat and you work for the company, you qualify, right? I think there's a level of individuals, of enthusiasts that you have with that. I think the next level up is you need to create a reward system. You need to, especially you need to find time in their calendars to spend time on security, because, or else, they want them, even if they want to help security, they are already what's it called, going to be pushing for a bunch of other stuff. So I feel that the next layer of individuals that you want to grab are the individuals that are already doing security, but they're not being recognized as doing security. And don't underestimate the power of, in a way, a central team in nudging and talking, and even talking to their boss or this boss's boss. Because remember that in security, we tend to operate very highly. Like we will speak, in a big organization, we will be speaking directly, with their boss's boss, their boss's boss's boss, right? So it's very powerful to go to an individual that sometimes is quite deep down the organization and say, hey, you now are very special because you're doing this. And I used to do sometimes this party trick of bringing them to meetings and sometimes defending them very heavily and almost saying, that guy you might think is a junior developer, but he's now, our representative in security. So you could totally see that person became a lot more like, wow, this is freaking awesome, right? So I think that's a great set of individuals that you can find there. And then for the next level, you need to, improve your reward system. And I think this is really good. And of course, your example of the badges are a great way to also, in a very nice sort of, viral way, to then find your champions. But then you need to go and bat for them. You need to talk to their managers, make sure that their managers recognize the time that they spend, and more importantly, recognize that the work that they do for security is now acknowledged as a real deliverable. And because it's easy, because it's easy not to see that happening, right? It's easy. I now sometimes spend time explaining and identifying the heroes, and I'm saying we should not require heroic actions by individuals to be secure. And the reality is that this was a great piece of work, but that person went beyond the call of duty, which is great, but it's the wrong thing to do because they should not need to do that. So, you need to think about how can you create a system and a culture that allows those individuals to already be rewarded by that. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense, definitely.
And then just the next level is when you actually hire them. That's the thing. So the next evolution of this is when you hire, and here I would say, try to hire individuals that would be hireable by that team. So don't look, if you have two choices, both of them will work, but one will work much better. You can hire them centrally and then deploy them. It's almost like hire a security expert and deploy them to the field. But it's much better when you hire a DevOps expert that really likes security, when you hire a React developer that really likes security, or a Java developer, or a .NET or C# or Go or whatever, you're doing AWS architect, but you hire them and you make sure that they will be hireable by that team. But you say, for the first year, I want them to just do security stuff. And that's another level where you actually, in a way, are paying for that individual, but they are given to a team. So in an interesting way, you're giving the team more resources because you are removing some overhead from that team, and then you're giving the team more capability. Even if it's just 1 day a week for an individual, it already makes a massive difference in there. Can we bring Nick? Because Nick has his hand up for quite a while. Nick, you should be able to unmute yourself, and if you can.
Hi, hello. Can you hear me?
Hey.
Yeah, I had a thought earlier. This point system is really interesting. I think though, if there are people here that are joining because maybe they don't have a program, right, or security champions program, or they're just starting, this will be very difficult because this really assumes that you've documented exactly what you want your champions to do. I think this is more for a more experienced program. for in my past, when we've engaged security champions, starting that program, it was really a volunteer-based system. Trying to see who was interested in security, and trying to engage with them. We did more softer rewards, when we were primarily, all in person, and all in one location. Most of our champions, we would do meetings and provide lunch, so that surprisingly, you provide some food, and a lot of people seem to come. And then we did stickers as well. I would also do, we tried to kind of like build a community. So we'd have regular meetings with the champions. I would run capture the flag sessions, so they could come and actually go through and actually try and attack some things. We used various different websites, and I would be there as a kind of a resource to help them, and not solve it for them, but just be available as a resource. So.
Yeah, can you guys share that? Nick and JP, right? The thing sometimes I found that we all keep reinventing the wheel. So, even if you anonymize that a little bit, right? Even just publishing some of that, and we can do that on the Open Security Summit, right? Having a GitHub repo with those assets and those artifacts would also help a lot, right? I don't think today that there is a toolkit for starting a security champion program, which would be really awesome. That has almost like those little examples, those exam presentations, those exercises. Like you said, like running capture the flag programs is a great way to get people excited. I've run like hackathons on Friday, which is really cool. JP saying is OWASP is starting a project on this. Brilliant. Like, let's collaborate, right? I think that OWASP is probably a better home for that. They do it OWASP. But I think it's important we also ratchet up, right? And everybody should be collaborating on this.
Yeah, I think it also depends on the organization. I've worked in a couple of different organizations in product security roles, and in one, my security champion was more like an architect, right? But then, now I'm more closer to the developers, and we have more developer line, security champions, and so I think ultimately the champion is like the arm of the security team to help them accomplish things. And it really depends. Each org is going to have different goals or different things to accomplish.
Cool. Jenna, you want to talk us about this project since you're clearly involved in it?
Yeah, I am. I'm really, really, really lucky. It's not my project. I didn't instigate it. But it's being led by former CISO at ABN AMRO, and Walter's Clues, Irfan Santo, and there's going to be 3-4 people on the project at the moment, and it's just about to kick off. So one of the things that they're looking for at the moment is everybody's experiences of setting up a security champions program. And we're just about to start speccing out what the project's going to look like. So yeah, if anybody sort of like wants to hear more or get involved at any point, like please let me know. We'd love to hear. But yeah.
Yeah, cool. No, that's definitely a great project, right? And I think we should be collaborating, and we'll come and present at the next summit. Give us the progress report. Right?
That would be amazing, and I know that
there
the team will love that for sure. Yeah.
So please come, right? Like you got, next summit is in June, so we got 2 months to make some good progress, and then
let's
come and
talk,
share it.
Dinis, for sure.
Exactly. Cool. Timo, any comments on the stuff that we're talking about? Timo, you still there?
I don't think I have comments. One question was how to recruit people, right? And it's good to have a hackathon where you can see the skills in the first place, and then you choose which one you would like to have a security champion, or to be which one you would like to be a security champion. It's very bad when the product owner chooses the champion. Yeah.
Can we bring
Okay.
Carlos in? Carlos asking a really good question. Carlos, actually, I think you asked probably 2 questions, right? Jonah, can you join the voice? You should be able to share. Carlos has a really good question on getting buy-in experience by more experienced developers. If you cannot join in, I'll ask a question. The Carlos question is, what are your thoughts on how to gain buy-in from more experienced developers who perceive concept as this as silly, or believes the status quo is working just fine? Timo, what's your views on that? How do you get buy-in from more experienced developers?
Mostly they understand already that it's important. So, but I also have some which which say, oh, this is also obvious. We don't need to go through this. Why do we need to learn SQL injection? It's hard, right? It's in the commentary say the benefits. Yeah, that's what I actually tried, and that person said, no, yeah, I play so many games in my free time. You can't catch me with giving me rewards or something. Same person which said, why do we need to learn SQL injections? Hard to get them.
No,
right?
but I get that, because I used to work for Arius Risk, a threat modeling company, and this used to come up a lot. About how can you just get developers to be more security minded, and how do you really convince those ones that just are like, no, that is not my job, that's why security are alive. And I think one of the things that we used a lot was like, it avoids rework. Like, just think of all the times where, if you're threat modeling, it gets up to that test stage where developers have worked so hard on trying to get it to that point, and it's all about speed to market. And security come in, do some scans or whatever, and they're like, yeah, you've got to fix this, and you're like, and it kills the relationship, right? Because it's like, now you're making me redo everything, you're slowing everything down. And that's where, for threat modeling, it's like, this is why you should kind of get involved at the design stage, and security and development can work together. And it's like, so selling them that time back and less stress at that test stage was something that a lot of people seem to be using now and catching on to. So it's like, yeah, get less headaches by doing this. So yeah, it's about collaboration, being more inclusive.
Yeah, I agree. Yasin, can you bring you in? Do you want to comment on this one?
Hi everyone.
Hey.
Okay, Dinis. In terms of my I have a statement and then a question. One thing that I saw that worked really well in a previous place was that trying to get the buy-in of actually colleagues to actually become a security ambassador was trying to make it real for them in terms of what does actually security mean in your own personal life. One of the things that we did was, how can you improve your actually Facebook so profiles and your settings, and by changing your profile and your configuration would mean X, Y, and Z. And if you didn't do that, then it means you are sharing your personal data, or you are sharing certain type of personal data. And are you aware of that? And that's how we got a very good actually buy-in from people who become security ambassadors, because they got to learn more in terms of what it actually means. It's not just an engineering role. It's understanding how you control your own actually data. And if you can do that well for your own personal environment, then what difference you can make for the organization. So I saw that work quite well. And the question I've got is that if I look at security, I always see it as two arms. Left side as being the actual non-technical route in terms of doing security policies and actually governance. And then you've got the right-hand side where you get into the technical side and doing actually pen testing, security engineers, etc., etc. And therefore the question is that if you had a point system, would you try to apply both to the same two parts, or would you use different ideas or different approaches to try to attract the two different areas?
Yeah, I think you would need to put context into it. In fact, I would even add, in an evolution of that, you also have a lot of security, which is business and product focus, which is also about how do we embed security in the business, into actually the business processes and the at product level, because that has a massive impact. And I think on this, I would say the maturity of the evolution of this point system, which, for example, the one we have in the screen here is clearly very technical. I think you need to take into account these other areas of more soft or less technical securities. Because what we're basically measuring here is measuring an activity and then creating a reward system. So then that activity can happen across the whole business. And in a weird way, what we also have here is a way to measure the teams who do it, which is also an interesting element here. Because if you think about it, if you have 7 teams or 20 teams and only 70% of that have these points, then immediately you're finding teams that are not doing those activities, right? And this goes back to, the question of how do you deal, Carlos' question, how do you deal with people that are developers or teams that sometimes don't want to do this or believe they see it or they're already doing it? Then, the bottom line is if you have a team that is kicking it out of the park and keeps delivering secure systems, and every time you look and you review, they're insanely secure and they have all the documentation in place and they clearly are above the rest in terms of their practices, then fine, right? But sometimes what you see is the teams who complain are the worst teams, because it's almost like they say, I don't want to do this, I don't see the value, etc. So sometimes that's a problem that you might need to spend more time with them or be a bit harsher, because you can't just let sometimes teams get away with it, right? Because especially if they touch sensitive data, right? Or they touch things that are critical.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and to your point as well, there will need to be so much security and vetting to actually get the right people to make sure that they've not only got the right skills, but they've got the right background in order to actually handle the data that they need in order to make it secure.
Yeah. And that idea that we're talking about of giving security awareness, I've also seen that being quite spectacular at even briefing project managers, product managers, senior execs to understand security, to understand the side effects of security. And then they are much more likely to almost, ask for and demand security, which is also a great measure. Like if you find yourself pushing security organization, that's not very scalable. It's much better when the organization pulls security from you, when the organization is actually saying, hey, we need to be doing this, we need to be doing this, can you help us to scale? That's a much more healthy environment, right, to be in.
Yeah, indeed, agreed. It's great. Thank you for that.
Good stuff. That's good. And I think Carlos addresses that second question, right? Or how do you, developers view it as a great idea, but they push it out. The thing I would say here, actually also comment, would you start with one person for 6 months period to establish a metrics and expand? I think in the beginning, it's important that you almost try to get as much as you can from the organization, right? There's going to be points of diminishing returns, like, Jenna was saying, and basically there's only so much you can do, but the bottom line is that don't leave that on the table, right? If you have already individuals in your organization that are really excited about security and are willing to do some of those security activities almost for free, don't waste that, right? Leverage that, find that team, the practices that we're talking about here, where with simple reward systems, simple stickers, simple meetings, simple food. I've used Amazon vouchers in the past too, which is very effective. All those things, allow you to make the best of what you've got. And then you understand the gaps. And then that's when you might need to do other things. But, there's already a lot of almost fruit in that tree that you can harvest, very, very quickly. That's the low-hanging fruit. And Timo, back to you.
Back to me, meaning I go further.
Yeah. Or, going to expand on one of these topics.
Yeah, I just go further. I also have questions.
Cool.
Yeah, rewards. We need to consider the cost. When you say Amazon vouchers, for example, that is costly, right? So we have to think what is worth it. I use different rewards. So these are mainly participation rewards, which I use. So for example, here mainly the head, where I add these pins. So whenever I present a topic, I add the team gets a pin. And for persons, I use a lot of other things, as you mentioned. High fives are at least cheap, but other things like stickers or coasters or cups, bowls, t-shirts, and maybe masks. And here you see a meal. No, this is a bowl, but the highest in this model, which I tried, was a meal, so that the people who actually worked a lot got a meal with me.
TV. I was thinking that I just remind me that we did a session in the Open Security Summit about security buttons, and I realized it was you who did it.
Yeah, that was me. I presented that. It evolved, obviously. I have a lot of more stickers I can quickly show.
I just put
not
the link
stickers,
in there.
pins. Security pins. So is there a number of files in here? No, but you see it's a lot. So there are a lot of these. You can use it as stickers or as pins. They are all open source. So you can use them. For example, when you want to give something to your security champions, we have a champion here somewhere. Yeah, here, for example, is a security champion. So you can give this out to your security champions. And when you present a topic, I think TLS looks nice. So we can go to TLS. Yeah, that is a task, right? To make them use TLS, for example, internally. Within a cluster, then you can give out this pin.
Yeah, very good. I didn't know, but I forgot about this. Good stuff.
Yeah, I actually bought a button machine, right? Which I brought to the.
You did. I remember that.
So when we have it next year again in person, I will bring it again so we can make.
I remember that was very funny because initially I thought it was digital, and I remember looking at the oh yeah, Tim is actually going to do physical buttons, which is really cool.
Yes, but I can tell you now we're coming to the story about these things, right? It didn't work in Corona because everyone was at home, so it actually I lost the drive, and this actually is not my idea. I thought about stopping it, giving out these pins for the security champions meeting, but at one client. They actually created kind of a digital way to have here the pins in this is the service catalog where all the teams are also inside, so that we collected it in a digital way. I think it doesn't work as great as on the head, because you could give it out to the people directly. I think that was a better reward. Then now just afterwards, I add this pins. But it's at least something. I can still see which teams are participating a lot and which teams are not participating. Also, when the organization restructured, then you have to think, when there is a lot of restructuring going on, what do you do with these pins? Can people keep it, or is there a restart for all teams? Yeah, so I decided, for example, when there was a big change at this client, that we remove all pins and all teams start with 0 again.
Yeah, no, really good, man. I really like this. Yeah. We need to get, now that we get more into physical stuff, right? We definitely need to do more of these. I really like it.
Yeah, pins has some advantage. It's a reminder, it's a fast achievement, it's gamification. That's actually a sentence here which someone said at that first company I told you beforehand, where no one was coming, right? Then I introduced these pins with the hat, with the pins together. So every team got a hat. They had it in the team room, and then we collected these pins. And people who were not coming beforehand said, "We want to collect all pins." So that was the reason that they were coming. Yeah, and it transforms non-touchable security into a touchable security in case you have it in hand. I hope that it's coming back this year or next year, that we actually can work with physical things again. Yeah, unfortunately, there are cons also because these pins need to be produced, and you don't know how many people are coming beforehand. So you have a lot of pins at your office desk. So it will look like this in the end, where you collect all the pins. Because when you want to give it out, you need to have enough pins to give it out, right? You can't say, oh, I don't have enough for you. So when you expect 10 people to come, I make 20, and then I have some left for the next time. Yeah, this is how the head looks in more detail. Yeah, producing is, as I said, a problem here. But you can easily, when you know you want to do it for longer, you can buy just a lot of these pins together from each 20 or 30, and then it's not so expensive when you go to one of these online sellers. Or as I did it, you buy a button machine by yourself and use Rework Student.
Cool.
Yeah, now now I'm currently having motivation problems. It starts with the camera is not on when I do training, so I'm not so much in touch with the security champions. I hope that it's getting better now. At least I have some clients where we meet again physically, so I hope that this helps. So you can have more interaction with the people. Another thing which I tried to drive not only security champion, what I did for everyone is I have already the pins, right, and they are in the room, but I don't think that someone actually, when they move along the head, remembers a specific topic. So during the security champions meeting where I train a specific topic, when it's very, very, very important, I did the following. I used the figure, in this case, Darth Vader. And this time I used the sticker here, which I placed on it. So every time the people are entering the office, and I hope it gets more drive now that people are entering the office again, they are reminded of a specific topic. So this is the open policy agent, which is an authorization framework which you can use in your application. So every time the employees are entering the office, they get reminded authorization is important in a funny way. At least I hope so. I actually plan to do an evaluation on this. I plan to remove the figure and wanted to wait how many days does it take until someone comes and says, where is this figure? I actually saw the people that were playing around with these figures, putting them in different positions. So I saw it very quickly that they come to me. I couldn't do it because then Corona hit, but I hope that by the end of this year, I can try to figure out a metric. Okay. Yeah, as we discovered already, meetings are very important where you share knowledge, where the security champions come together and explain the pains. I personally have also a security champion, a backup security champion, so that we have already an order. When the security champions is not coming, I have already a backup person which will come. Then I use periodically meeting. I have some clients where I do it bi-weekly, so every 2 weeks, and some clients where I have a meeting just monthly. And in the start, we share knowledge. I try to get out the problems, and then I provide a training. I recently, because this book came out, the Security Culture Playbook, and there's one line which I mean, it's in general great, but one thing which the authors mention is that awareness training is not enough. People need to actually do it. So it came to the thinking to me is every 2 weeks for 1.5 hours, maybe too much. Because I don't. The question is, does it help to do it so often, or is it better, for example, to do it only once in a week? How much is needed?
Well, you mean meetings?
Yeah, meetings where you meet the security champions, where you train them, where you discuss things.
Yeah, I think that the key there is make sure that the content is really good, and it's people are presenting and it's very interesting, right? You can have, first of all, make sure it's very regular, but if it becomes just a thing where people go in and go, oh, what's up, and it becomes a very stale meeting, then I think you lose energy. And that's why I always try to get the developers to present, the engineers, the people to present stuff, especially if you have new findings or new vulnerabilities or even latest exploits. that works really, really well, right? But then, yeah, so monthly, so Carlos saying monthly brown bag sessions, it works really well. I think the key thing is to make sure it's regular and make sure that they're very, very interesting. And that takes time and effort, right? I think you should never underestimate that, the security chamber systems that I've worked really well, the security team spend time to make sure they were very well organized. And it takes a long time for it to become almost self-running. And even then, it's very easy to lose energy. So I think, it's an asset, and I think the security team should be investing in it continuously.
I'm also made the experience that it's not so hard to get good content, because from my point of view, you need only enough for a year. And afterwards, people have changed so much that you need to do a lot of topics again, because there are a lot of new people inside and a lot of people left. So you have to restart with the main topics like SQL injection, and 1/3 of the developer changed during that time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Cillian is saying I combine both the curriculum and also leave slots open for case studies, and or in I have this issue, how it can help. Absolutely, those are really, really good practices. Cool.
Yeah, so we are kind of in the end of my presentation here. No, I have one more slide after this. This is just for your knowledge, in case you don't know the Security Champions Playbook, because we had a talk already about how to introduce. I think this is kind of a guideline to introduce it for people who don't know that. Yeah, I have one. Yeah, this is my last topic. This is kind of a hard phrase, security-like protection of the environment. Everyone understands it and no one does it. And the question here is, when you do these trainings, for example, how do you get people to do it afterwards? So, because security is not a habit, right? You need to try to make it a habit, and that's what this slide should highlight: how to make security a habit. I think we talked already about it, right?
Yeah.
How to engage developers.
Yeah. Well, I think you need to embed it into the organization practices, right? In the beginning, you put a lot of energy, but then, if you start to become part of the policies and the procedures and the things that the team does normally, then and they understand the value. But that's very hard to do, right? I think it's very hard to create that self-sustained environment, but that's almost what you want, right? You want an environment where the security activities become part of what the teams do, not something that they kind of go out of their way to do it, right?
Yes, that's what in one of my clients, they are now setting objectives and key results. And the manager said, yeah, we don't need security objectives and key results because that is obvious that is needed. Yeah, and then no one did it. For example, I introduced a tool, and most people are not introducing the tool correctly. They have kind of implemented it, but not using it. So there are findings popping up, and they are not marking them as false positive or accepted. So it doesn't work when they don't have objective and key results for security. Also, there were some small teams which did it. Besides, the management said, no, we don't need to have objective and key results for security because it's obvious that you have to do it. And these teams are performing better than the ones which are not having objective and key results for security.
Yeah, that's an interesting metric. But I think it's also because those teams understand it, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's what I said. Like, if you measure then the outcome of what is being created, you then can see, right? Because ultimately, when you get that level, security is measurable, right? Not just in the number of vulnerabilities, but in the activities, the practices. And these days, the vulnerability management, the procedures, all that stuff leaves a trail behind that you can measure and get a good sense if they're doing it or not. And like even threat model, right? It's a great practice that, if it's done, also helps with architecture design, architecture reviews, etc. So it has a lot more value than just for security.
Yeah.
Great. There we go. And we're just on the hour. Any final questions or comments? It's really good. This is what the summit session should be more about. Like collaboration, multiple people chipping in with their. Oh, wait, one's from James. Good. Come on, James. You can chip in. Where's James? All right, James. I just made you a co-host. Can you ask your question?
Yeah. So we're looking to set up security champions. We've got, but mostly for the business. So we already have like a DevSec champions chat that happens bi-weekly, but this is more around customer call center teams, finance, so sort of back officey type stuff where we want to talk more about processes. Like I guess separate sessions for them. Like a lot of the stuff we're talking around, which sort of focuses on the sort of DevSecOpsy stuff, will just go massively over their head and they turn off instantly, right?
Yeah, I think so, right? I think it's actually awesome that you're already doing that kind of non-traditional security stuff. But yeah, you might want to do one joint, maybe a month, where you actually, to be honest, I think it's really cool to cross, fertilize, the different teams, right? But I definitely feel that if you're having those more business focus in the past, I've seen that, you need to have probably different sessions for them.
Is there anyone here that's actually implemented something like that? So where you're talking about, topics would be things around IVR, like ID&V, things that call center staff or staff that are reaching out to customers are kind of doing it, those sort of processes, right?
I did it for product owners, but I think that's different from what you're heading to.
Yeah, contact centers are a funny one. I used to work in one, funnily enough, as digital ops. And as part of that, security is obviously an element of it, more the security awareness. And I would say that from past experience, inviting, like Dinis was saying, like inviting them to the same sort of DevOps, DevSecOps meetings, it's going to go straight over their head, and it can feel quite overwhelming and alienating. And there's a lot of people within not just contact center environments, but businesses more generally nowadays who aren't security literate. So you have to kind of be careful that you're going in there and you're approachable. You're not telling people, oh, you must do this, otherwise you're going to get taxed. And it's a massive nightmare, because although that's their terms that they understand, they're not very enabling or constructive. So I would say that have separate sessions and be ready to speak in the language that they understand. So if it's finance, pitch security championship or being more cyber aware or practicing security practices in the language that they speak. So it could be talking about, finance, anything to do with finances, anything to do with databases, PII, how they're securing what they work on a day-to-day basis, right? And then you could take, say, the maybe like your project leads for each account within your contact center, to take your main managers and put them in a room and say, this is what you need to know, and this is how you should train your people on the phones or on live chat or wherever they are, again speaking in their specific language. Same with HR, for example. So I would say that there's definitely tenets that are the same, especially when it comes to like client data or customer data, but be ready to have examples for them that they can relate to so they can pick it up quicker. Because the last thing you want to do is bombard them with stuff that they don't understand, and nobody likes to be told to do something which they don't understand, because then it becomes overwhelming, and that's when you have people take a step back and say, oh, this isn't for me. So that's just my 2 pence, and good luck.
Yeah,
Thanks.
very good.
That's it. Good question. Good session.
Cool. Well, thanks everybody. Let's do another one. I think this is definitely one of those that we should almost do a regular, round table session, right? At every summit session, summer event. So and Jenna, you're gonna present on that OWASP project next time. And
anything to do with security champions programs, you'll always find me there, I promise.
Good. Well, let's keep doing that, right? Cool. Thanks for everybody for participating.